Hey, what's up guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a debut deck profile. Today I'm going to be doing Timelords, and I don't mean Doctor Who, I mean the Timelords of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds that recently got released in Relentless Revenge. This deck is actually pretty cheap if you guys want to pick it up. I think I paid for the new stuff. Every Time Lord was like 50 cents to $1. Like, it's super cheap. I think the most expensive card in here is maybe like $4, maybe Time Maidens at that. You don't even really need an extra deck besides Rail Cannon Gustav Max, but I did throw together an extra deck for you guys of like a couple of suggestion cards besides Gustav Max. But anyways, guys, hit that bell down there so you can become a part of the notification squad, and let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to play 3 copies of Sandion, the Time Lord. Now this guy is the big like beat stick of the Time Lords. A lot of the Time Lords don't get very big, but he comes out at 4,000, and all the Time Lords share the same ability of that they cannot be special summoned from the deck, and if you control no monsters, you can normal summon this card without tripping. They cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, and you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. And at the end of the battle phase, they have a designated effect. So I'm just going to kind of read you guys the designated effects. The effect of Sandion is it inflicts 2,000 points of damage to your opponent after it battles, and then once per turn during your standby phase, shuffle this card into the deck. But the really interesting thing about this card is, yes, it's 4,000, but your opponent takes no battle damage from this card either, which kind of sucks, but it's really just a big walloping stick to hit your opponent with one good time, and then it's like, okay, I'm done. Then we play 3 copies of, in my opinion, the best one, and I'm not saying that because it's named after me, but Yugioh. My name is actually Michael, but they're actually based off of Archangels, which is kind of cool. But Yugioh's effect is that he cannot, once he battles at the end of the battle phase, it's really, really interesting because he halves your opponent's life points. Like, whatever it is, he just, like, solemn judgments their life points, which is crazy. Like, a lot of people are building a burn deck around this, and mine's kind of a burn variant, but, like, if you get this card and Sandion on the field at the same time, you pretty much win the duel, because after the battle phase is over, they take 2, and then half, or they take half, and then they take 2, so they've lost 4,000, and then 2,000, and then you overlay in the main phase 2 into Rail Cannon Gustav Max, and that's an OTK right there. So you've already won the duel. So then we play 3 copies of Zaphion. Zaphion is really, really pretty, and I really like this card. It kind of reminds me of Miku in a way. But her effect is that after she battles, shuffle all spell and trap cards your opponent controls into the deck. So it's kind of like... and if she's sent to the graveyard, you get to draw 1 card, which is really, really cool. You're not going to get that draw effect all that often, but it can happen. But, like, her main thing is like, she's like Giant Trunade for your opponent's back row, which is really crazy. Then we play 2 copies of Medion, which I think was technically the first one released of the Time Lords back in Photon Shockwave. It's taken a long time for them to release these Time Lords. But Medion's effect is, if this card battles, return as many monsters on the field as possible to the hand other than this card. And if you do, inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent for each return card, which is really, really, really broken. It does a lot of damage. Like, this is like Giant Trunade for monsters, which is really cool, actually. Then we play 2 copies of Lazion. Lazion is another burn one. His effect is that he cannot be summoned, once per turn, if you battle, if your opponent draws a card, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. And if this card battles, shuffle all cards your opponent controls or your opponent's graveyard into the deck, which is really good. Like, if he attacks, all of the cards in your opponent's graveyard go directly to the deck. And then if they draw a card on their turn, they take 1,000 points of damage, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like almost like Lava Golem, but you have the monster on your field. Then we play 2 copies of Raphion, the Time Lord. His effect is that if he battles, your opponent inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of 1 monster your opponent controls. Like, all of the Time Lords do burn damage. It's really crazy how much burn damage you can do in this deck. Then I play 1 copy of If this card battled, shuffle as many cards your opponent controls as possible into the deck. Then they draw equal number of cards shuffled into their deck, which is really, it kind of sucks, but if they have an established board and they've extra linked you, this card is searchable and you don't always see it as a one of, but you know, when you play one copy of it, you can search it if they extra link you to shuffle their entire extra link board that they've committed a lot of cards to make. And it just resets the whole board, which is really, really cool. I really like it. I don't think you needed it more than one because, like I said, it's searchable, but one copy is definitely a must-have, in my opinion. Then I play one copy of Camion the Time Lord. Camion's kind of interesting. I see people play like one or two of him. His effect is that if he battles, you can shuffle one card your opponent controls into the deck, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent, inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent, and neither player can activate cards in response to this card's effects. If your opponent has one card that's just like really, really tough to deal with, you can just get rid of it with Camion. So like he's really, really vital and really important. And then for the final three monsters, we play 3 copies of Time Maiden. Time Maiden's effect is if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from the hand, and this card can be treated as 2 tributes for your Time Lord monsters. You can tribute this card to add a Time Lord monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, and then you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon a Time Lord with 0 attack from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is really cool, but you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn. During the turn you activate this effect. But it's not that big of a deal, because like once you get the one Time Lord out, you're fine. Like that's the really cool thing about this deck, is once you normal summon one Time Lord, you're fine. Like you just summon it, it can't be destroyed by battle, it can't be destroyed by card effects, and you sit on it, you get the effect off, and then you shuffle back into your deck on the standby phase. And that's what's really cool about these Time Lords. And I really, really like the deck. But like I said, this deck is super easy for like a beginner to get into, because all you have to do is normal summon one monster per turn and battle one time. It's not that hard to understand for this deck, which is really cool, because you can teach somebody how to play the game with this deck. But that's it for the monsters. Let's get into the spells. The spells will go a little bit faster because like they're pretty generic stuff, so I won't have to do a lot of explanation with those. So we play one copy of 1-for-1 to special summon out our Time Maidens. Monster Reborn just in case they go to grave, or we get a Time Maiden in grave. That's the big reason we play Monster Reborn. Foolish Burial to send our Time Maiden to grave. We don't do a lot of special summoning in this deck, but we need the draw power, so we play 3 copies of Potted Duality. 3 copies of Advanced Draw. I've never seen this card played in any other deck. I haven't. You contribute 1 level 8 or higher monster you control, draw 2 cards. Because like once your Time Lord's effect is used up, if you have multiple ones on the field, you contribute them and then draw 2 more cards with Advanced Draw, like draw into another Time Maiden or something like that you need. Plus, the next card will like really show you why you play that. We play 3 copies of Celestial Transformation, and that's our final spell. Celestial Transformation is you can special summon 1 fairy monster from your hand, but and its attack is half, but half of 0 is still 0, so we don't really care. Also, it is destroyed during the end phase, but that's why you play Advanced Draw, is because you can activate this and then use the effect of the Time Lord monster and then activate Advanced Draw, attributing it to draw 2 more cards to replace the Time Lord and the Celestial Transformation that you used. So you kind of go even-ish, but you draw cards, so it helps. But that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. And yes, we do play traps in this deck. So let's get into them. So we play 3 copies of Torrential Tribute because your Time Lords cannot be destroyed by card effects. It really lulls your opponent into like a false sense of security because you activate Torrential Tribute and it just blows up their board. Like, it's better than Storming Mirror Force or any of the Mirror Force cards in this deck, so that's why we play 3 copies of it. Then we play 3 copies of the Time Lord specific trap card, and that's Empty Machine. The first time this card would be destroyed by a card effect, by an opponent's card effect, it is not destroyed, and then once per turn, you can activate one of the following effects. Either discard a level 10 monster to draw a card. They're all level 10, so that's why that's there. And if this card is the only card in your spell and trap card zone, target 1 Time Lord monster in your grave, shuffle it into the deck, then you can set an Infinite Machine, which is this card, directly from your deck. or hand or deck. Then Infinite Machine's effect is that it has the same effect that you have to, it can't be destroyed by card effects, by your opponent's card effects once per turn. And then its effect is you have to activate it by sending an empty machine from your spell and trap card zone to the grave. So it's like you're upgrading all the way up into Infinite Light. But its effect is that during the main phase, you can special summon one Time Lord monster from your hand. Then its other effect is that you can target one Time Lord monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and then set an Infinite Light, which is this card. Infinite Light's effect is that activate this card by sending one face-up Infinite Machine from your spell and trap card zone to the grave. This face-up card cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is really cool, by your opponent's cards, which is really, really cool, and neither player can target Time Lord monsters you control with card effects, or return Time Lord monsters from the field into the deck. The really cool effect is this. Like, once you get Infinite Light on the field, you've pretty much won the game. If you control no monsters, you can special summon up to one Time Lord monster from each your hand, deck, and grave, with different names ignoring your summoning conditions. So your big play is to summon Mykion, Sandion, and really you just need Mykion and Sandion, but you could summon another one like Zaphion to bounce your opponent's back row, or Gabrion to like hit them one time and then it deals them damage. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Like I said, you don't really need an extra deck for this deck except for Gustav Max. So we're going to play 2 copies of Gustav Max. You need this because you detach a material off of this and it deals 2k to your opponent, which is really important. If you don't get him with the first one, you'll get him with the second one. One number 81, Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Super Dora, which is like really, really good. You can make this if like your opponent cherries your Dreadnought Rail Cannon, but like it's an option. Then we play a Sky Palace. If you want to be that guy and summon Optimus Prime against your opponent, you can in this deck. It's really easy. You just need 3 level 10s, and like I said, Infinite Light gives you 3 level 10s. If the game lasts that long, you can make this. Then I play the Spider Engine, which is 1 copy of number 35 Ravenous Tarantula. It just requires 2 level 10s. I play 2 copies of it. I play 1 copy of Pain Gainer, and then 1 copy of 7 Sins. Basically what this does is it lets you get a 4k beater on the field really easily by just like overlaying 2 of them. So we play that. Then for the Link monsters, I play 1 Cleafort Genius, 1 Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Underclock Taker, and then 2 Link Garibos. And that's it. That's all I really play in this deck. Like, it's not... The extra deck besides the Rail Cannon is not really necessary. Like, I never find myself going into any of this except for Rail Cannon. Because the game's over usually that quick with this deck. Unless your opponent has something that negates, like, effect damage. But that's it, guys, for the deck. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I really, really enjoyed making this deck. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's super, super cheap. So I really recommend you guys picking it up. Really, really fun deck. Burn damage deck. And, like, don't let anybody know this, but it's really fun to take this to, like, a big tournament and then catch them in time with this. Get it? Catch them in time. Anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to hit that bell down there so you can be a part of the notification squad. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.